Hello, you guys. I am so glad for all of you who are joining us live and for all of you who are going to be watching this on replay. So glad that you are here. You may have seen me on Instagram posting some little teaser pictures for you guys to figure out who our next Tutorpreneur Hero winner is. But if you're here right now, then you already know that we are going to be today hanging on out with Tsao, who is the Bothell STEM coach because he lives in, I learned just recently, Bothell, Washington. Am I saying Bothell right?
Yeah, that's right. It's Bothell, not bot hell or like that's what people think of it as, but yeah, it's Bothell.
Oh my gosh, that is hilarious that you just said that because I was like that wasn't even anything that like even went through my mind. I that's not even what went through my mind. I live in a town called Sussex. And one time they were repainting the water tower, but they started from the end and they stopped that day on the letter S in the middle. So you can imagine it was like just everywhere, like posted across the entire world. Sussex became very well known after that. Like, look at this Wisconsin town. What do they do here? So yeah, it's pretty crazy. But yes, and you've got 3 children. So I made a mistake and I put that you only had 2 kids because you know what happens, you guys, when you have 3? It is harder to get photos of all of your kids all together, right?
Yeah,
So you have a 10-month-old, 2.5, and 5.
that's right.
Oh my gosh, I love it. Those are such fun ages, and you know what? It's amazing how fast that the time goes by on on kids growing on up. It's absolutely crazy. So for those of you that are joining us right now, here's what I'd like you to do. Type in who you are and where you're from because I want to be able to say hello to you. So we've got Patricia Corcoran in the house. Woo woo! Hey, so glad that you are here, Patricia. Thank you for joining us. And I know more of you guys are going to be joining us as well. Definitely type it again, who you are, where you're from, as soon as you are here and joining us to hear all about Helen's story, because I am always motivated by people who really kind of had the same inspiration that I did to not work for some of those other companies that were going to pay you less money and all that kind of stuff. And I think you guys are all going to be inspired to hear Alan's story as well. So without further ado, everyone, here is Alan. Hey, Alan.
Hi, Joanne. Thank you so much. I feel really honored to get this and to talk to you. Like, I just feel like it's been a huge blessing to just be part of all of it, part of the ultimate support group, and as part of the insiders group, the smaller group of people. But I've been really I feel like it's been like a good point for me to find your group recently. And so I think it's been amazing. It's been really good.
Yes, and you today get this amazing award. So you even get that badge. It will go, you can put it on your website and show it off and tell people hey, I'm a tutorpreneur hero.
I definitely will be doing that. I'm not doing a lot of social media, but I will definitely do it for this one.
Which is awesome. I'm very, very excited for you. So I always love to find out in the beginning, what was learning like for you when you were a kid? Did it just kind of come naturally to you? Did you struggle in certain areas? Tell us about that.
So when I was young, I was always pretty good at math. That was just a bent inclination. In Texas, I grew up in Texas. They do a lot of standardized testing, and you don't realize it. But their IQ tests are sort of evaluation tests. They're not the standardized testing that happen these days.
Yeah.
Called the Iowa test of basic skills, but it was an IQ test. Apparently it was just an evaluation of you. It wasn't part of anything, but I would consistently score above 90th percentile in math, but reading 20th percentile,
oh, wow.
terrible reader. I remember distinctly being in kindergarten, and the only thing I remember about kindergarten is how I was behind on the books, other further and later in books, and I was still struggling with the early books. So back then, obviously, there's no online and everything like that. So, I probably would have benefited greatly from some of your help or other reading tutors. But yeah, for a long time, reading was a struggle for me. So I was always good at math. I was good at science. I always had good grades, so it was never a struggle on grades, but like definitely English reading comprehension was probably a really tough thing for me. And I kept reading anyway, but a lot of times I would read books and I knew all the words, but I didn't understand what I was reading. And so when they got to those questions about like, why is someone doing this? Or, well, the kind of literature analysis kind of stuff, I would struggle a lot. It wasn't probably until about 11th grade that like reading kind of really made more sense and reading comprehension. And that's when like even from 10th grade to 11th grade, my SAT score went up a lot because 10th grade on the verbal section, like I did okay. Like I did fairly well because I knew grammar. But in terms of reading comprehension, not good until about the 11th grade. It just somehow just clicked for me. And so now I'm like a voracious reader. I read like all the time now, but I had to keep working. One area I had to keep working in. Math and science were just really easy. Never, I tested in middle school. I was in math club in middle school. I did math competitions, stuff like that. I skipped a grade in math in terms of the normal Texas curriculum. So I took algebra 1 in 7th grade. Because my math teacher like pushed me to like take a placement test that allowed me to take it. So I was like through high school, I was with the year above, even honors classes, honors algebra, calculus, and everything like that. So so that's kind of like my story. So generally, like the stereotypical, I'm an engineer. I studied engineering. Very good at math, and then really struggled on English and writing and everything like that.
So how did that experience really help you then with your students that you have today when they struggle with math?
I tell them that my focus is that everything is a skill, and skills take practice to master. So I relate it to them like this: like you want to learn to play the piano, you want to learn to play the guitar, you want to play a sport. Okay, there is the knowledge you have to accept, like you have to learn, you have to know the rules, you have to know the mechanics of how it works, but then there's practice to actually get good at it. And for some people, it's easier. Some people are very gifted. They can play the piano very easily. And some people, they have to practice a lot more. And so for some people, when they learn math, it's more. They have to practice more than someone else. It doesn't mean they're not math people. It just means that it wasn't easy for them. And I tell them when I struggle with reading, I had to just practice more. Other people picked it up easily. For some reason, it just didn't click for me. But I read a lot of books. I forced myself to read those books and to do those things. And that's how I got better at it. And so maybe it takes you more hours, takes you more practice to do better. But anyone can do it as long as you're willing to do it. Any skill. You can be good. Now, you may not be like best in the world. Not like I can practice all day playing basketball and I'm going to be in the NBA or something. So, but you don't need to be the best in the world. You just need to be like, pretty good and competent at it. And if you want to be at that level, it's just a matter of the amount of practice you have to do. So some people, they need more practice than other people. And that's just everyone has different things that they're bent towards or is easier for them.
Yeah. As you were going through that entire explanation, all I could think of were like new tutors. Like they're really good at tutoring in the area that they tutor, right? But the whole marketing skills is a whole new like ball of wax for them that they've never had experience with before. And so you got to get the basic skills in, which is like what our group kind of does, right? We give you the basic skills that you need in order to put those pieces out there and begin to get found by people. And then we continue to up the ante and make it more difficult for you so that you can, deepen those skills and just get to the point where everything is just on automatic for you with your business. And that's really with anything, right? Like you can't expect to be perfect when you first start doing this. And so when people say things like, well, it's really hard to get clients, it's like, yes, in the beginning it is because it's brand new. Like you've never had to do it before. Like some of us are teachers. Did you come from the engineering world?
Yeah. So I got a bachelor's in electrical engineering, got a master's in it also. So I'm fully trained electrical engineer. There's plenty of jobs in the Seattle area, like Amazon, Facebook has a big presence, Microsoft. There's a lot of tech companies in the area, similar to the San Francisco Bay Area or other tech cities. So I've worked as electrical engineer for 11 years. And I only recently quit to do the tutoring full time. I quit in April. And that's about when I joined this group more, as because I was like, okay, I'm going to do this tutoring full time. I got to spend a lot more time with this. But yeah, I gave up my engineering career. I can always go back to it technically if I needed to, but I do enjoy this a lot more. And there's a lot of aspects of the tutoring that I love a lot more. So yeah, I don't have a teaching background. I think that's like a little bit different, a little bit intimidating sometimes. But I'd considered a teacher actually going into teaching.
Okay.
But I'm not licensed. I don't have the degree, so it actually costs money, a decent amount of money. I don't want to, and teachers don't get paid nearly enough. I'm looking at the pay scales. I see the contracts. I mean, they're public. What the teachers in this area, they get paid in my area in Bothell, they get paid pretty well. I mean, like compared to the average, but it's still like, I'm an engineer. So like that's, it's a pretty significant cut. Probably one third of my salary is the starting salary for a teacher. So,
right. And so like to go back to school, then that doesn't make sense. Because
to invest another 20,000 to get a degree. Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Totally does not even make sense to go that route, especially if the tutoring is the aspect that you love the most. We have this question all the time. Should I be worried that I'm not credentialed? Should I worry? Yet here you are, you have a thriving business without being a credentialed teacher.
Right.
But you have something that is just as important called life skills. Right? Like you've actually had to use these math concepts in real life, which gives you a whole nother door to kind of see these concepts from that a teacher would never have the ability to even have.
Yeah, I think everyone brings something different to the table, and I think that's a good point because that's one thing people when you're looking around at other online tutors is you kind of compare. You want to think of like, oh, like they have this, I don't have that. Oh man, I don't know how it's going to work. Or they have this and I don't have that. And everyone brings something different to the table. And that's why being on your own, or at least being in an area or in a market that you can market yourself as not a commodity, as like I'm interchangeable, because you want to talk about how you're different, what you bring that's different than other people. And that's how you reach clients, is because they hire you, maybe they hire you initially for outcome. Okay, they hire you like, because my child is struggling with this. But what you sell them on is your experience and your perspective and things like that. And that applies. I get a lot of students, just because of the fields I study, I get a lot of students who are going to study engineering, or at least very, fairly highly capable and are looking towards that degree. I'm going to be talking with an old student of mine right after this call, actually. He's starting at a college this year, and he wants to just chat about how his first day, he has his first day of class this week, and he just wants to chat. It's just an old student who wants to let me know how it's going. And he asked for a lot of advice about like picking colleges and things like that. Because I could give him that perspective, because I had gone through similar programs, similar competitive programs in engineering, and he's studying computer science, but it's similar in terms of the technical skill and the rigor. And so, yeah, he just wants to chat about it. And I offer that perspective to some of my students. And now you can say like, well, I'm not an engineer. I don't have that perspective, but you have your own perspective. Everyone has their own perspective that they can bring. And so you want to focus, that took me a long time to realize, is you want to focus, you hear it, but you don't really internalize it. You want to focus on your strengths, what makes you different, and not try to chase those things that other people may have, or other credentials they may have. You want to use whatever you have. And there are people who will lean into that, and that will speak to them, and they will be attracted to that sort of experience.
Yeah, absolutely. It's like finding your own little superpower. Like what is your superpower? Like what is it that you're able to do that other people are not able to do? If we talk about the same exact thing and we tell people that we love that light bulb moment, like what teacher doesn't love that light bulb moment, right? That doesn't separate us apart from anybody else. And so sharing your experiences and those kinds of things can be so powerful. I remember one of the videos I created was all about my struggle as a reading student. I also struggled with reading comprehension. And then I shared like what I was able to do after struggling, and then how the pieces came together, and a simple process that parents could use with their child that my mom used with me that changed everything forever. And so I had one parent who immediately, as soon as I like posted that video, she contacted me, and she was like, when I heard your story, I knew you were the tutor for my daughter.
That's great. I mean,
Yeah.
that's amazing, and that's what you want to focus on. I think because it's some people try to focus on like teaching subjects that they're not comfortable teaching,
Hmm.
or try to be like, oh well, this isn't popular, blah 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 blah. Um, that's fine. I mean, you'll get client, you won't get paid as well for it, but like, yeah, your individual experience, your individual unique take on things is what people pay for. The flip side of that is that not every student is for you. You know,
That is
not
true.
like you talk about ideal client, and I think that the flip side is like, yeah, I don't. There's some students, not just pricing, not just subject, but just like the experience or the perspective you're offering is not what they're looking for, not what they need. Um, so I bent more to when I do math and science, I bent more to students who are in challenging programs,
Hmm.
but they're generally very smart. They're just in very difficult programs, as
Yeah.
opposed to people who are maybe more remedial. I have helped remedial students. I find I do help them. I don't think I'm as effective. I also don't think guys enjoy it as much. But and I've helped friends like that, you know,
Hmm.
friends' kids who are remedial and they're struggling. But like that's not my bent because I don't have that perspective. I don't have that struggle as much in math because I never went through that. And so I can help those kids who, or I better help those kids who are more advanced and they're just taking very difficult classes and they're used to being good at it, and they're starting to like struggle a little bit because it's just very hard and very competitive and they're in a difficult private school or something like that.
Yeah, yeah. And there are people that like they've always been a straight A student and they want to stay a straight A student. Like they don't want to get that B, right?
Right.
And I think that is so pivotal. Like my daughter's kind of in that position right now. She's got a 4.0 in high school. She wants to keep that 4.0. It means a lot to her. So
Yep.
if there would be a class where all of a sudden she would struggle a little bit more, I know that she would want to be able to get help.
Yep.
And she wouldn't even hesitate on it whatsoever. Now, you had talked about you had left the engineering world to go on into tutoring. What has tutoring online helped you be able to do in your personal life that you weren't able to do before?
It's so there's a couple of reasons why I did it. While I was making pretty good money and not, I was good at it. I mean, it wasn't that I wasn't good at it. I actually was pretty good at being an engineer, and I've done very well. I got paid well to do it. And I even got to work at home. I mean, I was a working at home engineer because
Nice.
my office, because I've moved a few times, and so I always worked at home. But I felt like I wasn't connecting with enough people. I felt like there was just a need to just be like, I'm not really passionate. I don't really enjoy it. I know like not everyone has to chase their passions. That's a little, everyone's a different side of the fence on chasing your passions. But for me, it was important that like, look, I'm uh, that would have been a perfect job if I was close to retirement. If I just kind of wanted to coast a little bit, just
Sure.
make some extra money. But I was like, I'm not ambitious enough. There's no growth for me, no self improvement. So that's from the professional side. That's partly why I've enjoyed the tutoring. There's a lot more engagement. Um, it's more tiring. I work less hours, but like it's more intensive because I'm constantly talking. I'm constantly engaging with students, and I wasn't doing that for 40 hours a week before. I was only just typing, working on a program, working on some design. So that part has been more fulfilling like in myself. When I started tutoring, I was doing it part-time. So I would work and then I would do some tutoring on the side or in the evenings and stuff like that. And when I started doing that, my wife just noticed, like, you seem a lot more patient with the kids, seem a lot happier. So I was
Hmm.
like, that made a big difference. That made a good perspective. And I was very lucky with my job. It's not my job wasn't any good. It's
Yeah.
just, I just wasn't, it's kind of draining because I didn't really enjoy it as much as I
Sure.
used to. So that part has helped. The other part is spending more time with the kids. Because if I wanted growth and I wanted to take a job at, say, Amazon, Microsoft, Facebook, there's a lot of travel involved, a lot of work hours. I would be spending a lot of time with them. My brother works in there, and he kind of he has to work pretty hard, and he puts in a lot of hours. So for me, it's like I wanted to spend more time with the kids. I didn't want to work weekends. My golden hour tutoring window, right, between like 4 after school till 7-8 p.m. before the kids go to bed. Like I wanted to just be present with them as much as I could and take care of the house stuff. So that's what online tutoring has allowed me to do. That's why I actually weighed teaching, because I was like, man, if I just tutor locally, as soon as my kids come home, I got to go, because other kids are coming home. I got to go tutor
Right.
them. Yeah, I got to go drive out and go tutor them. And I would just be home all day while the kids are in school. And then I would be out as soon as the kids get home. This is not a schedule that I wanted for myself.
Right.
So the online for me, since I'm on the West Coast, I get some students on the East Coast. I target some college students too. So
Mhm.
that helps fill out the day a bit.
Oh,
Um,
that's awesome.
yeah, this year, see, before all the kids were at home, but this year my wife's going back to school, my daughter's going to kindergarten. Sorry, my
Mm.
wife's going back to work. And so I'm going to take on a lot more, and I want to spend a lot more. So my kids aren't at home when I'm tutoring anymore. So I don't get to see them as much. So I want to be very, very intentional about keeping those hours after school open for them, that I can spend time with them. So my struggle this year has been more, filling out the day. I like focus on the daytime hours, not squeezing in the 4 to 5, a couple of 7 p.m. sessions. I'm really have the hard to be like, I can't do any of those times anymore
Mhm.
this year. And so like, it's a little scary because I'm gonna be less busy, or I'm gonna have less students, not less number of hours, but like it's just gonna make me focus on hitting the more online a lot bigger, and hitting the daytime hours a lot more.
Yeah, absolutely. And that's the cool thing is like we can really target the entire world. I mean, now you can start thinking about, okay, I can start thinking about like GCSE and and UK and A levels and all these other things in other parts of the world, which then again becomes again very self-fulfilling because you get to, stretch yourself, learn more and all of that kind of stuff and be able to target those types of students that would be interested in your services. So that is awesome. I absolutely love it. So we got Paul Morgan here. He is from the UK. Speaking of the UK, he said, "Congratulations, Alan." And we've got Elizabeth here. She said that you're making some really good points. Awesome. We've got Sindhu in the house. Oh, I haven't seen you in a while, Sindhu. It's so good to see you here. And Doreen. And Doreen mentioned she doesn't have the credentials either, but she's got plenty of online students. Bam, girl. I love it. I love it. I love it. We've got Max in the house. Hello, Max. So glad that you guys are able to join us. And if you guys have any questions at all for Alan, please throw them on in and we will throw it on into the conversation. So you guys get to be a complete whole part of this. That's a beautiful part about doing a YouTube live, you guys. And if you want to stay on top of being able to get videos like this sent to you, all you have to do is hit that subscribe button. And if you like it when we feature other people's motivational stories, then hit like, because that just means that we get to bring you more of them. So thank you so much, you guys, for joining us. You guys are just as important as Alan is here with joining us. So you started when you started, you actually made a really smart decision in your whole entire career, because you weren't like, I am just going to quit my job and start tutoring. You started building up the tutoring to a certain point before you decided to leave the job. So tell us about that process for you.
Yeah, so I worked from home, and I worked East Coast hours because the office I'd worked in, we used to live near Washington, D.C. in
Oh,
Virginia.
okay.
So my group was East Coast. So my schedule would be like up online at 7 a.m. It's 10 a.m. East Coast time. That was like kind of like the latest I wanted to be there. I tried to be there earlier if I could, depending on when I woke up. Luckily I didn't have a commute and I didn't have to do too much. And but just be online by 7 a.m. But that usually meant around 3 p.m. Most meetings are done. Most things are done for the day on the East Coast, 6 p.m. time. And so then I would do students. I would do students that in the evenings after the kids went to bed, and a little bit in the afternoon from 3 to 5
Mm-hmm.
or so.
Mm-hmm.
And so that was a good like filling in, and I did like maybe 10-ish hours a week, like because I was doing a full-time thing, and that was really good. And so I was getting a little bit taxed out, but because I was doing 40 hours and then another 10 hours of tutoring, and I wasn't doing much in the evening, so I was getting kind of full on my plate. But it was good. It was like I was building the business. I named myself because I was focusing on local tutoring at the time.
Uh-huh.
Because I was just like, tutoring mostly done. then I was starting to think, I was trying to strategize. I was like, well, okay, so how am I going to fill in daytime hours? This is the big reason I can't stop away from my job. And then so I would do a little bit of that, but I had work to do during the day, and so. But it was a lucky coincidence. I had a really great boss that I worked with. He came to me and he said, like, look, I need you, because I was a consultant, so I billed hours to a particular client, like, and I had to target 40 hours a week for that client. And he said, like, look, I need you to bill at 75%, like 30 hours, because of their budgets and stuff like that. There's like, I need you to do that. And then he was actually looking for growth for me. He was like, I want to spend you like 25% of your time business development, like sales. Like if you want to move up, like that's kind of like the thing you want to do is, you gotta work up higher in a consulting company. You're getting new clients, getting new business, winning contracts, putting in bids. And so then during that conversation, I was like, look, I don't really want to do that. So I said, why don't I go part-time. So you'll just pay me 30 hours a week. And then I'll spend that extra 10 hours a week doing what I want to do.
Yeah.
And because I was at the time, might have been teaching. I was like, there might be days I want to do substitute teacher because I want to know if I want to be a teacher. So might sub, do some temporary side gigs in a private school where you don't have to be credentialed, but that would give me time to do that. And he was on board with that. He was like, totally fine. So I went down to 30 hours a week last year with them. And so then that freed up more time for me. So then I went up to about 20 hours a week tutoring.
Yeah.
So still about 50 hours, but now there's 30 hours of that, 20 hours of tutoring. And at some point, I'm going to make a big transition. I knew I was going to take a leap because I needed to go full time with the tutoring, but I couldn't just cut down that business because if I was at 20 hours, there's still like off time where I'm like thinking about things for that work. And I just have time to focus on my business because my brain is split between the work that I had and the tutoring that I wanted to do. And so this past April, I was like, look, there's a lot of things I need to do with the business. I just can't do it even if I was just doing 10 hours a week for the company. So that's when I put on my notice. I was just like, look, I'm gonna step away. I think I need to, I want to focus on this part of my business. I got a lot of support. He was really, really happy for me that I'm being an entrepreneur and, taking a big risk or, like that thing. But, he was a great boss. It's a great company I worked for. So no downsides on that. And they gave me great support to allow me to navigate this transition from, ramping up. Yeah.
Oh, that's so cool. And it's really smart too, because just to like a lot of people, some people are in a position where they don't have a choice, right? Like maybe they have an injury or maybe they're so completely burnt out from their job that they have to quit their job and then they have to start something else, right? And that's totally doable, but at least this gave you some time to be able to build it on up to know, hey, this is what I want to do. Mm-hmm. And this is how many hours I want to work. And if I work this many hours, I'm still going to be able to pay the bills and do the things that I need to be able to do.
Yeah.
It's awesome.
Yeah, I'm really fortunate in a lot of ways because, I worked as an engineer for so long. So we had a lot of savings and then things like that. So, I'm not in a cash flow or problem or where I know a lot of tutors are. I know the struggle is really real. I'm very fortunate in that sense. I feel because especially I know a lot of tutors who are teachers and they come back and, you guys didn't get paid well as a teacher at all. Like you don't have much savings, maybe a pension if you're lucky or they negotiate a decent contract for you, but still like not well underpaid. And that's a whole other conversation to get into. But, it's like, and then they're still struggling to pay the bills after such a long period of time. So I feel I know how blessed and fortunate I am. Like I'm 100% aware of how lucky I've had a lot of things. But I think it's just I've been really lucky to be patient. Like in the beginning I was taking on a lot of the clients even if they weren't good fits, and so now it's more about, it's not about being totally full for me. It's about filling the right hours, right, the during the day times, and filling with the right kinds of students that I think I can reach better, because I did learn that because in May, when it was really busy, I was doing like 35 hours of tutoring per week, which is a lot of talking for me. And then I was still trying to be present for the kids. So like, these were like during the day and then evenings, I was doing like 8 to 10 Monday through Thursday, and then a couple of weekend days, you know, like it was very little, but like mostly you know, I was just like, you know, doing it during the day, then tutoring at night, and I wasn't really getting a break. I was getting pretty burnt out. So filling it with the right students
Yeah.
is what I realized. So right time slots, right students. Every year, I feel like it's never on autopilot. It's not the same each year. It's like I have different goals. So sometimes it's the rate is going up. For me, this year is like the rate's going up. My kids are starting school, so I have to cut my hours in the evenings, and then try to fill the daytime. So there's a lot of different pieces of my business that is changing each year. And I think like part of the online tutoring is you have to be comfortable with that struggle a little bit, because it's not just maybe for the beginning it's chasing clients, but even when you get that, it's not like necessarily you're done like with the struggle. Like there's different struggles that you're going to have, I think, constantly to position the business the way you want it to be, you know?
Yeah. Yeah, absolutely. And tutoring is a little bit of a roller coaster, you know, in which people are not used to, and they just think, oh, I get my students and then I'm going to keep my students. But
Right.
there is a turnover rate. You know, there are some students that come for a short period of time. There are some students that come for long term,
Yep.
and you don't always have that foresight to know how long every single student's going to be staying.
Right.
And that can leave people with a little uneasiness. And like you said, there's always things that are changing and things that are new. And that's why I grew this community, because I was like, you know what, we need a place where we can constantly, you know, motivate each other, cheer each other on, and also be coming up with new strategies that are going to continue to allow people to have less of a roller coaster and to make it a little bit more even Steven, so that people can really create the income that they desire.
Yeah.
For sure.
Yeah, I mean that's the advantage of an agency, right? Is you're trading off stability, but for much lower pay, because they're managing a lot of those things for you, and
Right.
you don't have to do when you go through them. But it is a big exchange.
That's a big exchange.
Yeah, it's a big trade-off, and that's fun for some. I'm very conservative with money. Like it's how my parents grew. My parents are immigrants, and so like when they came, they still like, you know, it's important to save money, provide, you know, no debt, you know, like as little debt as possible. And so for me to trade a stable, pretty good, really good income for this is, you know, like not a transaction they understand in terms of like what I want to do. But they're supportive, don't get me wrong, but it's like they think my in-laws, apparently they kind of think that it's like, well, it's a nice experiment he's doing, maybe he'll just go back to being an engineer in a couple of years after after he tries this out for a bit. But you know, I have plans, like long-term plans. Like I think for a business, you should have like very short-term, mid-term, long-term kind of strategies.
Yeah.
Kind of, you want to split up, and different things that you're working on are focused on different pieces of that.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
Absolutely. And that's what I think helps. That's the exciting part, right? Like when you start like reaching some of those goals, and goal setting is so pivotal. And if you never goal set, you'll never actually reach the goal. They actually did a study of kids in high school who set goals for themselves, and they compared it with kids who did not set any goals with themselves. I believe the study was done through Stanford University. And what they found was that the kids that did not set goals did not reach any goals. And that the people who did set goals, they had actually either reached those goals or exceeded those goals. When it came to all of that kind of stuff. And it's like, holy cow, like that is significant. That's significant. So to create those different stages of goals is I think pivotal in our business, and even to allow ourselves to just stop, dream, and think, right? Like what is it that we want to be able to create inside of our business, and getting clear about it. Yeah, because attracting the wrong clients is not going to be a happy situation for you.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, that's a good point you bring on, like setting goals for high school students. I remember like I actually was very goal oriented, and when I achieved a goal, I kind of didn't coast. I set higher goals for myself, you know, like, and I did that kind of self naturally. I think I was just in bed from my parents, or just the way I had always thought about school. But somehow I had set goals for myself, and I remember thinking like I was gonna do like, so like as an example, like my junior year of high school, I took AP calculus, and that was the highest math that the high school ended so like they didn't offer any higher math courses. So my senior year, I was thinking about what to do. I ended up taking classes at night at a community college. But I would get a period off. So I would take a period off school, and I didn't get a grade, or it didn't affect my GPA, but I would take, so I took the next calculus course at a community college at night. It was like, I think it was like 7 to 8:30 p.m. each night, or like 2 or 3 days a week. And I did that. I remember just doing that. Like, well, no, I want to keep going. I just set a goal. I just said like, well, I did what I wanted. I got the 5 on my exam, or my AP exam. I want to do the next thing. And so, I looked at my options, and some students around I see, they just did like, well, they're focused on college and they're focused on their GPA. I also think that's like not a perfect goal too, because it's easy to coast if you're setting like kind of it's an ambitious goal. To have a 4.0 GPA is not easy, but I'm just saying like once you have it, and it's easy for you, like you need to like think about like what it is you want to do next, not just be like, I'm going to coast at this level, because I agree, like you won't grow. And if you just sort of settle, then I don't think that's good for your business either, for you or your business, because there's always things you want better. No matter how good you have it, there's always things that you would want better and you wish you could have better. And you just identify them and find a way to like get there.
Yeah. Yeah. Max, I did not know this, Max. So thank you for sharing. You have a similar background as Alan. You have a BS in electrical engineering and had a long career in that industry.
Yeah, I remember seeing Max when he joined the group. Saying that, hey Max.
That's so cool. And I have actually listened to a lot of engineers who have left the engineering world, and when they were making that transition, they would listen to my videos in the car on their way to work.
Oh, okay.
So engineers, you guys, like tutoring is a good fit for you. I know that, it seems like a decrease in pay, but actually for some people, it can be, even Steven or even higher pay. I know right now my husband is not making, he's an engineer as well. And don't worry, I never make any jokes that he's an engineer at all. He is, but he does not make $75 an hour as an engineer. I don't work as many hours as he does, like at that rate with students and clients and that kind of stuff. But, it just depends on where you want to go and what it is that you want to charge. You absolutely can charge what you are worth when it comes to tutoring. So, it's, a lot of people think, oh, it's kind of a step down. I think society-wise, people don't value education as much as I think that we should here in the US. And so even if you say you're a teacher, right? Your status almost goes down here in other people's minds. Now, in my mind, when I first was making this whole transition of going from a teacher to a tutor, I kind of felt like I was going like that, right? But now I'm making way more money than most of the teachers are.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. And we're working way less than most of those teachers are. Yeah. Sure.
Yeah. Well, I don't know if I'm working way less. Those of you who have seen what I do, I don't know if I work way less. You know what it is? It's because I care so much about this community and so much about you guys that I put so much time and effort into growing it, because we're great at what we do. We're great at being able to tutor in the area that we tutor. But when I first stepped into the shoes of starting my own business, because I was like not willing to get paid $10 or $15 an hour to do what I love, I was like, no way. If people are paying $50 an hour over at Sylvan, then they'll pay me $50 an hour. Okay, like
it's simply a marketing thing at that point. All Sylvan has brought in is marketing, name brand recognition, and stuff like that, right? That's how they can command a price. And so, yeah.
Yes.
Exactly.
Yeah, and you've got to follow their curriculum, and they're just little pieces. Yep. And on top of that, they've learned how to even stack their classes. So they've got 3 or 4 kids there sitting in front of you. So they're making out with $150, $200 an hour, and the tutor's sitting there at the $10 to $15 an hour. That is just absolutely completely wrong to me, 100% right off the bat. So I wasn't willing to follow that route, and I know that there are other people that are like me out there as well. They're like, I feel like if I were to educate myself and how to market myself, I could charge as much as all these other companies because they're not hiring the people with tons and tons of experience because nobody will work for that.
Yeah, yeah.
They're not hiring teachers with 20, 30 years experience. So if you've got 20 or 30 years experience and you're like, I want to tutor, but I don't want to work for a tutoring company, you guys need to be here because we will teach you everything that you need to know so that you can market your online tutoring business and get more and more students. So, those of you who are just joining us, we are here today with Alan, who is receiving our Tutorpreneur Hero Award for 2019. And he's a math and science tutor. So you teach the math and the sciences. Are there any math and sciences that you don't teach?
Actually, it's funny you mentioned that. I don't teach chemistry or biology. So my main focuses are pretty higher level math, physics, and actually I have some electrical engineering students that just happen to come by because those are hard to find. So let's see. I tend to focus high school, college level. That's just not my bent. I have tutored some middle school, like maybe they're doing algebra 1 kind of level, but it's not usually I find that the way I speak, my wife calls it my TA voice because I tutored in college, and so she says like, you got your TA voice when you're tutoring someone. That kind of cadence, that kind of like explanation, expository kind of language, I think doesn't necessarily work so well with the younger children. So I typically don't do younger children. I can, obviously I know it. It's just I'm not used to explaining very simple things. Like when I'm teaching my students, I expect them to know how to add and subtract. Do some of these basic things. And so sometimes it's been a while for me to have explained to be like, oh, how do you convert decimal percentage? The mechanism and understanding, because there's a lot of, because I'm having to do that with my daughter now. She's 5, so she knows numbers, and she knows I'm a math teacher, and so she asked me to teach her math. She's like, can you teach me math? And so we do some addition and stuff like that, and I'm trying to remember how to relate the concepts, foundationally for her. But it's tougher for me because it's just not. I haven't taught it or tutored that ever. So yeah. It's funny you mentioned because I was talking to some chemistry tutors out there, and there's this one who's making a lot. He's making way more than me. He only teaches chemistry, charges on the hundreds of dollars per hour. So like there's a market for any price range. I feel like so.
Yeah.
There's I've seen on Wyzant there's people like $400, $160, $200 an hour. That kind of for very. Maybe it's somewhat specialty, but you'd be a little bit surprised the kinds of clients that they can get.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah. It doesn't help though that Wyzant still takes that 25% cut.
Yeah. So that's been another goal for me. Is like last year I was really busy, and about a quarter of my business was Wyzant, and so I'm trying to eliminate that. That's another aspect of my business, is just sort of reduce that as much as I can. But those are the main subjects I would tutor. So a lot of physics. I'd say statistics. Some people fold that into math, but that's the one's a little bit different because I know a lot of tutors who maybe tutor calculus, but they don't tutor statistics. And so my mix is typically like calculus, physics, statistics, and a little bit of electrical engineering. That's kind of like how my clientele is split.
And did you find over the summer that you had a little bit less of a demand for the tutoring, or was it about the same?
Definitely less. For the high school students, obviously little to none, except for a couple who wanted to do a little bit of like getting ahead.
Mm-hmm.
I got more college students who were taking classes over the summer. I had one student, she's a business student, she's taking statistics. That's the one thing about statistics is different, is I get people from other majors in college. Yes. So typically when I do calculus and physics, it's typically computer science engineers or but those are more specialty, like in terms of like the major you're going into. But statistics is required in a lot of fields. I was psychologies. I had an adult going back to school who was doing. I
had to take it as a teacher.
Yeah, mm-hmm. Yeah. So it's like I get a different type of student a lot of. So this was a business student, and so that was a good number of hours on statistics. I had another student again also taking statistics, a business student, but it was definitely less. For sure. it was fine. There were things I wanted to do over the summer anyway. Like I knew it was going to be a little bit less over the summer. If I wanted to, I could have marketed test prep a little bit more. Test prep is higher. If you for some people, like last summer, I did more test prep and to keep the hours, higher up. I didn't really enjoy it that much. It's very lucrative. Like if you could
Yeah.
get, I mean, a lot of people pay a lot to get good SAT, ACT, GRE scores.
Yeah.
Just not my cup of tea. Not something I enjoy doing. But definitely a way I could have leveraged that a little bit if I wanted to be busier.
Yeah, for sure. And I totally agree. Like I had taken on an ACT student at one point in time and found out this is not my ideal client. My ideal client is the one that I don't have to plan for. Okay. Like, I don't know how you guys all think, but if I have to do a lot of planning to teach somebody something, then that's not my ideal client, because that's time that I'm not getting paid that I could be working with another student who I could easily be working with and know exactly what they need to be working on, at the snap of a finger. Right. And so that's not my ideal client. But I know that, like you said, there's good money in it. You can make between 100, 150, $200 an hour if you decided to go out. There's even an SAT tutor. He charges $1,000 an hour, and he lives in New York. And he has focused on all of his time on CEOs of companies, and that's like his gig. And more power to him. I would rather tutor what I absolutely love tutoring to my ideal student versus having to begin learning something whole new route. I just did not enjoy any piece of it. It was like, nope, this is not for me whatsoever. Now,
Yeah.
Paul mentioned that he also used to tutor math and science, any age, any subject, but eventually realized that his ideal client was that A-level AP chemistry, although he still does the occasional GCSE maths. So
Yeah.
this really is, this is a great conversation all around finding that ideal client, because at the end of the day, you're going to love what you do more if you do focus on that.
Yeah. Yeah, I love specific goals because some people they come in they just want to be fully booked, and I'm like, well, what do you mean? You could go on Ysant, charge $20 an hour. That's better than agency, even with the fee. Like if you were like $25 an hour, you got plenty of students, and I got to be plenty full with just all kinds of students who are just looking at a low cost tutor. But I'm specific. I want to be full. What do you want to be fully booked for? Like what kinds of things? How much do you want to get paid for being fully booked? What kinds of things do you want to be teaching fully booked? Like the dream, like I think like you speak to it well. You say dream big, dream like what's ideal? Like the ideal can be far out there. My ideal is I have some sort of passive or set income that I'm set. Like I talk about this to my wife, be like, what would I do if I had no financial worries at all? If I won the lottery or whatever. And I was like, well, I would keep making the videos that I'm doing, and I would probably do the like our library has study hours for volunteer tutoring. And my goal is to impact as many students. I would probably just volunteer all the time. I actually plan on doing that when my kids are older. I want them to go with me and we can volunteer and tutor students for free. And so I would be like, I would do it the same thing. I would just doing it for less and try to reach as many students as possible for less. That's my dream, to reach and help as many students as possible, which is why I don't plan on making my rates like crazy high or anything like that. Because I do want to reach more students, and teaching is a one way to reach that goal, but I think that's not for me. But teaching, you obviously can impact a lot more students than you can with tutoring. But that being said, like I just want to reach as many students, help as many students as possible, and that's my dream. That's a very tangible things to set very high goals for yourself. It doesn't mean like you're going to get there tomorrow or next year or even maybe in 5 years. It's like a long-term thing.
Mm-hmm. Yep. So definitely set goals. So here we go. Anybody who's new to this group, here are the things you need to do. Okay. The first one is figure out who your ideal client is so that you can continue to work with them. And that second one is to set goals. What are your goals for yourself and your business? Those are two really important things. What's some other advice that you would give for new folks out there that are just getting started with their online tutoring business?
For me, it was, do I want to do tutoring? So some people, maybe if they're totally new and they haven't done tutoring before, it's just be like, you feel comfortable with the online tutoring aspect at all. Two is, I would say, get pretty good at the technology. I know that can be a tough piece. But if you want to do the online tutoring, I think like you want that experience for their student to be as good or even better. That
Yeah.
means being fast, not being stuck on the loading of the things. That doesn't necessarily mean prep. Maybe that mean in the beginning, just be comfortable with the tools, how to use them effectively. Like for me, how to copy problems over that they send me from texts, because even that's a big process. They text me a problem or email it to me, and then I got to transfer it over. You want that smooth and easy so that it's really seamless. So I would say focus on that aspect, because if you give a really good experience on there, like every time an in-person student says they don't want to do online tutoring, but once you've tried it with me, because of whatever reason, they're like, hey, I like this better. I want to do online. And I'm like, that's great, because that would be easier for me too. So I don't have to drive anywhere.
Right.
So I would say those are the two big things. Just make sure you want to do it. And you could start with an agency to just see if you want to get some students, just try it out. You like it. And if you like it, then you can do this thing. But definitely make sure you like it, and be good at the tech.
Mm-hmm. I started with my nephew. So my nephew was in Illinois, and there was no other way I could help him. And he was struggling with reading at the time. He was in second grade. And I was like, hey, I just approached my sister-in-law and I said, I'll do it for free. I just want to see if this works. And she looked at me like I was going to be treating her son like a guinea pig. And I was like, no, like the same strategies that I've used with my in-person kids, I'm going to be using with your son. So it's not like he's a guinea pig. It's just, I've never done it online before, and I want to see if this is something that will actually work. And not only did it work, but we closed the gap for him that year with reading and made it easier, and life completely changed for him when it came to reading. So it was an extremely amazing experience. And she was hooked on online ever again after that. So anytime she needed a tutor, she's like, all right, I'm going online. You got any suggestions for now Ryan's struggling with this? Any suggestions? And I'd be like, yep, I got the tutor for you. And that's the other thing that we can do as a community, you guys. We can help people with being able to, refer each other to, there are things like when we figure out who our ideal client is and who our ideal client isn't, the isn't needs to be suggested to somebody else who is, right? Because then you're giving the gift to the child of them being able to work with somebody who's going to love every second of being able to work with them. I don't work with adults, but there are some people, they love working with adults when it comes to reading. And so, I will pass on every single adult to another tutor in our community so that they can get that opportunity to do what it is that they love. And there's a huge need for it. So yeah. It's just not my cup of tea, because I have to start recreating a whole bunch of new stuff, right? I have to find the right texts that deal with now issues that they're used to dealing with versus the little baby texts that I sometimes use with the younger kids, right? So it's very, very different. And I don't enjoy that aspect of it. So I really do think that this can help everybody. Somebody who needs something, you look into the community and think about, okay, who would be a better fit for this? And then you can choose from there, who would be a good fit. And if you make a bad decision, I just want to let you guys know, it doesn't affect you as much as you think it does. Okay. Maybe you offered a suggestion of a tutor that wasn't a good fit. That parent's probably not going to come back and be like, oh my gosh, that Joanne Kaminski, oh man, she just stinks as a tutor. She doesn't know anybody good. I mean, there are just going to be situations where people are a good fit and sometimes they're not, and it doesn't affect you in your business whatsoever. And I think as tutors, we take too much pride on that side of things, being like, what if I recommend somebody who's not really good at what they do? And it's like, look, if they've already told you that they have a desire and they have an extreme desire to be able to help, they most likely do and probably can help. And so you just have to leave it at that. The more that you can be active in the community, the more you're going to get to know people and know who you need to be able to, refer others to, because you'll notice a name and be like, oh, I know that Alan. Yeah, for sure. He's an awesome guy, and he's
That's already happened a couple of times from the insider group. People are like, "Hey, I know your stuff," and just from other people in the Facebook group, it's just like, "Hey, I know you teach calculus. You seem like you know your stuff. You're really engaging and everything." And so, yeah, I think the networking is really easy because you see those in the ultimate support group. Some people be like, I need a tutor, and then there's like 50,000 people that you never heard of before. Like they never posted anything ever before, but they're like, yeah, I could tutor, because they're just there to just accept. But then like they're just like, how am I going to look at this list and decide who am I going to give a student to, right?
Right. And you look at that list, and it's going to be the person that has been commenting the most, who has been more present in the community and more active in the community. So that's where like being active in the community can really help and serve you guys. Yeah. And Alan, this is one of the reasons why you're being offered this award today, because you are a pivotal member of our community. You are constantly giving people great advice inside of the group, and you take that time to really help others. And so you guys, this is why Alan is our 2019 Tutorpreneur Hero Award winner.
Thank you.
So I want to thank you so much for joining us today. It was really, really awesome. And hearing your whole story, from beginning, how you struggled all the way on up to, where you're at today and why you made the decision to be here. It's so powerful, so impactful. So thank you so much for sharing it with us. And you guys inside of the group, if you guys continue to have any questions whatsoever, feel free to throw them on into the comments, and we will make sure to answer those for you. Well, you guys enjoy the rest of your day today, and I will see all of you guys next week. Bye, everyone.
Bye.